These are a group of monsters with the heads of dogs and bodies of men. They are the death gods Anubis's army of death. After 5,000 years of slumber, they are once again waging war upon the world alongside their master. The pharaoh's guards, clad in black, gather on the battlefield, vowing not to let the army of death step 1 foot beyond the desert. What seems to be an unwinnable battle for the pharaoh's guards is met with a spirit of fighting to the death. As the battle begins, both sides charge and shout. Wherever the guards' scimitars strike, the enemies turn to yellow sand. In the face of their unwavering resolve, even the army of death seems to be terrified. They scatter and flee, and those who are surrounded turn into yellow sand as well. As the guards celebrate their victory, the enormous Scorpion King, who has been sleeping within a giant pyramid, awakens at this very moment. Soon, the guards see more of the army of death pouring in from a distance, this time overwhelming in number. Why does Anubis's army follow the Scorpion King's orders? And what has awakened him after 5,000 years? Over 5,000 years ago, an extraordinary figure emerged in ancient Egypt. He was 8 feet tall with a waist of 10 tails. With just a call, countless followers would rally to him. He was known in the underworld as the Scorpion King. The Scorpion King was a valiant warrior with a formidable army. He waged wars everywhere, determined to rule the world. But ancient wisdom says that warmongers are destined to perish. When he led his troops to attack the mighty city of Thebes, he faced fierce resistance from the regular army. His forces, unable to breach the city, laid siege for 7 years. In those 7 years of conflict, his ambition was thwarted. It was his first major defeat. To save his life, he retreated with his remaining troops to the sacred Amsha Desert. The harsh desert conditions, with scarce water and food, caused his once mighty soldiers to fall one by one. Eventually, only the Scorpion King remained alone. As he neared death, he still couldn't accept his fate. He swore to Anubis, the god of death, that if he could be saved and help reclaim Thebes, he would offer his soul. Remarkably, the god of death agreed and sent him a scorpion for sustenance. The Scorpion King, despite his disgust, ate the scorpion and made the pact with the god of death. In the next moment, under the god's divine power, lush vegetation suddenly sprouted in the barren desert. Tall trees sprang up, covering miles in an instant. A dense oasis formed, and not only did the god of death give him new life, but he also granted him an army of death from the underworld. From then on, the Scorpion King was known as the Scorpion Emperor, leading Anubis's army of death. He was unstoppable. Even the mightiest city of Thebes couldn't resist the onslaught. Within half a day, the city fell, and no force could challenge him. The Scorpion Emperor finally achieved his goal, but at a cost. At the height of his triumph, the pact began to be fulfilled. Anubis, as promised, took his soul and dragged him to hell. All that remained was a golden bracelet lying on the ground, while the army of death dissolved into dust, returning to slumber beneath the sands until summoned again. Fast forward 5,000 years, and O'Connell and archaeologist Evelyn, with their son Alex, returned to this place. After their adventure in Egypt in the previous film, O'Connell and Evelyn returned to London, married, and had a chubby little boy. The family lived happily, but recently, Evelyn had been dreaming of the pharaoh's tomb, as if it were a memory from a past life. Believing the mummy incident was a sign, Evelyn was determined to uncover the truth. The family returned to Egypt to explore the pharaoh's tomb from her dreams. During their research, Alex noticed that the patterns on the tomb walls were very similar to the tattoos on his father's arm. O'Connell, dismissive of the coincidence, let his son guard the entrance while he and Evelyn went deeper to search for treasure. However, Evelyn, familiar with the terrain, quickly found an entrance to a burial chamber. When O'Connell violently smashed open the stone door, he saw that the floor was covered in scorpions and human bones. Though it was not new to Evelyn, the familiar sight gave her a sense of coming home. Guided by her memory, she unknowingly opened the main door of the tomb. As O'Connell entered the mummy's tomb, Evelyn suddenly felt a wave of dizziness. Everything around her suddenly changed, and in a daze, she saw a vision of her past life. In a lavishly decorated chamber, a mysterious box sat between 2 strong guards. She could clearly see the code to unlock the chamber, but when O'Connell approached, the vision vanished. The structure of the pharaoh's tomb was almost identical to what Evelyn had seen in her dreams. She even faintly felt that she had been here in ancient times, but her husband O'Connell didn't believe her. Yet, Evelyn effortlessly opened the door, leaving O'Connell completely astonished. At that moment, 3 mercenaries received their orders and also arrived at the site. Alex, hiding in the shadows, overheard their conversation and discovered they were there to target his father. The leader ordered his men to stay behind in the temple, but he himself intended to kill O'Connell. Mischievous Alex hid and used a slingshot to play a trick on them. Terrified, they thought it was some kind of curse, while Alex giggled to himself. But when he tried the same trick again, he was caught, and the man was ready to teach him a lesson. Inside the chamber, they brushed aside cobwebs and saw the emblem of the Scorpion King, and there, they found a mysterious box also marked with the Scorpion King's emblem. Driven by curiosity, Evelyn opened the box using the same method. Inside was none other than the legendary bracelet of Anubis. It was said that whoever possessed the bracelet could summon the Scorpion King and, by killing him, gain control of the powerful army of Anubis. Just as the mercenary leader found them and was about to shoot, the chamber suddenly shook violently. Terrified, the mercenary leader fled. O'Connell realized it might be a curse and quickly examined the surface of the box. Sure enough, there was an inscription that read, "Whoever opens this box will be drowned by the waters of the Nile." Before he could finish reading, the walls collapsed, and a massive flood from the Nile burst into the tomb, blocking the couple's escape. The three mercenaries, too scared to deal with Alex, hurriedly fled. As he left, the man angrily kicked down the scaffolding, hoping to trap the boy. O'Connell grabbed Evelyn, and they frantically ran through the tomb. But in the end, they were cornered by the floodwaters, and the entire underground palace was submerged by the Nile, trapping the couple who were quickly engulfed by the waters. Just as they were about to drown, their son, who had been standing guard outside, experienced his first true crisis and, quite accidentally, saved the day. By pure luck, Alex knocked over a large stone pillar in the temple. The falling pillars triggered a chain reaction, with the final one breaking through the tomb's wall, allowing the water to flow out and rescuing his trapped parents. However, the couple didn't realize that after they entered the chamber, three mercenaries had followed, watching their every move. Far away, at the ruins of the City of the Dead, a construction team was busy digging. The project had three overseers: the curator of the British Museum, the head of security, and the reincarnation of Anxunaman. Anxunaman's reincarnation shared a unique trait with Evelyn. They could both recall memories from their past lives. Under Anxunaman's precise guidance, they successfully uncovered the Book of the Dead and the Book of Ammonius Ra. Though O'Connell had killed and buried the high priest, Anxunaman still sought to resurrect him. Meanwhile, the three mercenaries arrived at the ruins to report back to their employer, but as soon as they stepped out of the car, the entire City of the Dead began to tremble violently. The workers, who had been digging day and night, accidentally unearthed a swarm of flesh-eating scarabs. Terrified, everyone panicked and ran for their lives. Many were devoured by the scarabs, but Anxunaman smiled slightly, knowing this meant she was close to finding the high priest. Her men used flamethrowers to drive away the scarabs, allowing the workers to continue digging. As predicted, they soon unearthed a massive piece of amber. The curator was ecstatic. Inside was the mummified high priest, who had been sealed there 3,000 years ago. The curator, a devout follower of the high priest, had come here with the sole intention of resurrecting him. They also wanted to awaken the Scorpion King and summon the army of Anubis. Their plan was to have the high priest kill the Scorpion King, take control of his army, and rule the world. But they were still missing one crucial item: the bracelet of Anubis. Only with the bracelet could they find and awaken the Scorpion King. However, the three mercenary brothers reported that they had not obtained the bracelet of Anubis and that it had likely been taken to London. Seeing that they failed their mission and were still causing trouble, the curator was not angry but instead assigned them a new task: to retrieve the box that once contained the Book of the Dead. This was because, after the high priest's resurrection, he would need to consume the flesh of the one who opened the box to restore his body and powers, so he could kill the Scorpion King. Upon learning that the bracelet of Anubis was now in O'Connell's possession, the curator decided to personally lead the mission to seize it. O'Connell and his family had returned to their mansion in London, unaware that danger was approaching. While his parents were distracted, Alex secretly opened the box and put on the flashy bracelet of Anubis. To his surprise, the moment he put it on, the bracelet projected a holographic map. It swiftly passed through the Sheer Desert and its oasis, leaving Alex stunned as it seemed to be guiding him. The image eventually froze, stopping at the Scorpion King's lair, but he didn't realize that wearing the bracelet of Anubis would cause the Scorpion King to awaken within 7 days. Alex, knowing he'd made a huge mistake, tried to take off the bracelet but found that it was firmly fixed to his wrist and wouldn't come off. Fearing his mother's scolding, Alex hastily placed a figurine inside the box to cover his tracks. Meanwhile, O'Connell and Evelyn were enjoying a quiet moment when they discovered a strange woman's lingerie in the house. O'Connell immediately thought of Jonathan, and sure enough, Jonathan had brought a woman home. Just as he was boasting to the woman, the curator and his men burst in. They mistook